I saw the flyer with this guy's face on it, and just the caption, you know, it caught my eye, and I was like, huh, a human book. I've never heard of that in my life. And I took it, picked it up, took it home with me, read it over a little bit more, and I was like, huh, like, I think I should do this. Like, something in me was just like, you should participate in this. Like, you kind of have to do this. You have a story, and even if it might be uncomfortable, you've gotta be heard.
My title as a human book is 90-Year-Old Man.
I was the homeschool parent.
My book title is Schizophrenia. I'm part of the book with my mom.
I'm part of the book Schizophrenia with my son Michael.
My book title was Native American.
My book title was Disability.
Single mom, 3 kids, 3 dads.
My story in a nutshell is just growing up with the challenges every person faces, but also with autism, which just makes it a little different than everyday challenges, I would say.
Being a stay-at-home mom is a big portion of what I'm representing. Stay-at-home moms. I am also representing Christian women. I have 4 children. They range in age from 15 to 23, and this is our 16th year of homeschooling.
In 90 years, I've done a lot of things. I've been a school teacher and an athletic coach.
There have been issues when he was younger with kids fighting with him, picking on him, causing him to blow up. With an art teacher saying she was terrified of schizophrenics and refusing to have him in her art class.
1% of Americans are diagnosed with schizophrenia. That's what I remember talking about with my mom and another person. So it's not, even though that's such a small percentage, it's one of the biggest diseases out there that is like feared.
I love to meet new people and hear their stories, and I don't mind telling my story, and I think that's important. I don't fit the stereotypical homeschool mom, and we have never fit the stereotypical homeschool family.
When I saw it, I thought about all the misconceptions that people have and how that just presents extra and sometimes unnecessary challenges for me and people on the spectrum. So I just wanted to see if there was anything about that I could break up.
It's kind of just about spreading more of that information and kind of killing a lot more of those prejudices.
And I'm sure my main qualification was I'm much older than anybody else. So if there's anybody that for whatever reason wants to talk to an old person, I'm the 90-year-old man.
Well, my daughter put it on YouTube, and she says, "Dad, you should go to this, you know, because you like to talk to people." I said, "Yeah, you got that right. I'm such a chatterbox, you can't shut me up."
The book that I checked out was Schizophrenia.
I checked out Single Mom.
From the ones that were available, I chose the ones that were the most different to me.
I was really nervous that we weren't going to have a lot to say, but the people who are coming, the readers, are bringing really good questions, and that has been great. I mean, I didn't know what questions to really expect, and so it's not easy to prepare when you don't know what questions are going to be asked.
I met 2 women that actually had similar stories to mine, and it was shocking. I was like, what? I'm not alone? Like, I'm not the only one? Like, it's really neat when you actually meet people like that. Because you tend to think that you're isolated and there's no one else like you in the world, but there is.
Her story was very relatable, and so it made it great to be able to talk to talk back and forth to one another, and also just be supportive in some of the things that we've gone through. So I think it was kind of good for me to be able to make contact with somebody that I could relate to. And it was nice. We made a good connection. I even got a little teared up at the end.
There were a lot of people that were very respectful and a lot of people that were very open and just really wanting to know more about me and my life and my story.
Most every single time, we've wanted to keep talking.
One that sticks out that just comes to mind really easily is, what does autism mean to me? And I need a little clarification on that, because being so direct, sometimes I need to be very specific. But I really enjoyed answering that question in the long run, because I was able to tell her that it's not just me. My experience, even just on the autistic spectrum, is going to be vastly different from anybody else's. Everybody on the spectrum is different, even if only a little bit. But I was so glad that she asked me that, because I was able to share how it affects me and how I don't view it as a disability anymore. it's caused challenges, but it's not a disability. It's not something that's going to ruin my life. And even if it were, disabilities don't ruin people's lives. People ruin people's lives. It's how you deal with it, and I was able to communicate that pretty effectively.
Getting to discuss my experience in the chair in much more detail than I get to, when I'm on the bus and somebody, is asking about it, or, if somebody points at me at the park, or, hey baby, do you get 80 miles an hour on that thing? It was going into more depth and having a lot much more control.
I really just enjoy talking to people. I've done a lot of that during my lifetime, and I just really also need something to do. So I was interested in seeing how this worked out.
I, as a reader, felt comfortable to ask difficult questions because we are in this respectful, organized, safe setting with somebody who is willing to talk.
Sharing our stories in a way where we're listening, we're truly listening, and we're sharing our hearts, I think that really brings healing to the person telling, and it also brings healing to the people listening. And I think making an atmosphere where we can just engage in dialogue within our community, within spheres that we don't normally associate with, I think brings even healing to society. I checked out the book She's a Felon is the title of her book. And I just had all kinds of questions. I mean, usually that would be like the elephant in the room and you wouldn't talk about it. But in this environment, you can ask those questions and it's okay.
I wanted to hear their story, and we kind of did swap stories, and it was just nice to hear, like, wow, like, so you've been through this, and oh my gosh, I was getting high fives and hugs left and right. I mean, it was really neat.
I usually don't talk about my mental illness to random strangers, and it's really hard to do that because you never know how they're going to react.
I have never really thought of my title or my story as being something that someone else would really find really interesting. So it's really a blessing that people do.
There's always those moments where we're actually reading a book, and to have someone's face to look at, to talk to get an answer where you're wondering, I think is nice.
I went in thinking, okay, you've got this. You know what I mean? You eat this for breakfast. You've had these conversations with people before, walk in the park, everybody's done the training, you've got this, you've got this. And I ended up having to eat humble pie quite a few times because I realized that oftentimes I knew less about the person sitting across from me, or just as little as they knew about me. And so it was this interesting, sometimes taxing sort of give and take in terms of, because yes, they came in with their preconceived notions and I was expecting that, but then on a certain level, so did I.
Sometimes there's this little dance people do to try to get information out of you, and I don't appreciate that. And I really enjoyed the directness of it, and I really enjoyed that I was able to create this image of myself that I liked, and to create break some walls.
Because my book was so willing to talk about his experience, it helped me in understanding what some of my friends are going through, and maybe how to understand them better, and maybe even help them.
I kind of came in thinking, like, preparing myself for the worst, and having had those experiences before, and getting ready to correct people and kind of set the record straight about a lot of things. But a lot of the people that I had were kind of almost immune to those kind of misconceptions.
Having the dialogue with so many different people and learning how to facilitate and seeing how hard everybody worked and pushing myself out of my comfort zone. I mean, it's been really, really, really fun.
Everyone's like, oh, what are the challenges? I'm like, there were no challenges. This was just really uplifting. I kind of anticipated on there being more challenging questions and inquiries, and just I thought there'd be tears streaming down my face, but no, I've just had a smile on the whole day.
It was very nice to kind of know that people care and that they want to know and they want that information. that knowledge is power, and that's what they wanted to hear.
I go to a church where we study different religions, and I'm used to being challenged. And I like it that way.
I think it's good for people to be able to tell their story and listen to others' stories and see that we're not so different after all. We all have things to be proud of, we all have accomplishments, we all have failures, we all have things to not be so proud of, but that makes who we are.
Here we are towards the end of the day, and everything, I'm looking at the board, everything is checked out. Everybody is now sitting down with somebody and talking to somebody. I would say that this was a huge, huge success.
I think it's awesome. Like, I think this should happen like every weekend. I mean, probably a little harder to do that, but no, I think it's great, and it was neat to find out that it started elsewhere and it's becoming like a phenomenon. And
It was a wonderful opportunity, you know, to be a part of this, and I would love to see this continue. I think it's great.
I hope that the library does this a lot more.
Having the Human Library again come here, I think is even just going to be even greater to add to what our community is already doing.